Hey folks, welcome to our 5th episode of Inside Battlefield. My name is Tom, community manager here at DICE, and today I'm with Kit and Shashank. Guys, welcome. Could you please introduce yourselves?
Glad to be here. I'll go first then. So my name is Kit Eklof, and I'm the multiplayer level producer on Battlefield 2042. And started out as a game designer on Battlefield Heroes. Just wanted to get that in there as well.
Old school, nice.
Which is, amazing game to work on. So, yeah, Shashank.
Yeah, hi, my name is Shashank, and what am I? Lead level designer on 2042. I joined DICE during the production of Battlefield 5 single player. So I did single player, then I moved on to multiplayer, and then Kingston as a lead level designer. Yeah, but I'm originally old school modding background. Used to make levels for Quake, Unreal, Counter-Strike. So that's the backstory.
Pretty cool.
Yeah,
played all of those when I was a kid. So, as you've already heard, we're here today to talk about maps.
Yes.
So it's been quite a requested episode.
Yeah,
We've
finally it's our turn.
Finally, you've been hounding me for weeks. Tom, when can we get on? Come on. Before we dive into maps, I want to do a quick review of the weekly radar, what's available for play this week. We've got Seasons Conquest plus Breakaway. We've got Seasons Rush XL and Breakaway. Conquest Superiority. The Battlefield World Tour, which is pretty cool. Tactical Conquest, and obviously on Friday, a new Friday Night Battlefield, which I will not spoil. Come check it out on Friday. Please join us. It's always awesome. Any mode you're looking forward to playing this week?
It's breakthrough all the time.
Yeah.
That's all I feel.
I also love breakthrough. I love to know where my enemies are coming from.
this classic map guys talking. Yeah, I want to know where my enemies are. Okay. I got you. Let's. How do you feel about just diving into the whole maps design, balance?
It's been there are so many things to talk about and share, I think, on the topic, right, Shashank?
Yeah, definitely. You go ahead. We can start with how we came here.
Yeah, let's do that. So, if you look back, the maps weren't where we wanted them to be when the game launched, and I think something we wanted to touch upon today was talk about a little bit how we got there and why. I think we should go as far back as saying, for this game, it was really important that we had 128 players, which was something we had never done before. And, we had never built maps for 128 players before. So that was completely new. And, with the pandemic hitting and also engine upgraded at the same time, we didn't get a lot of time to prototype the maps and prototype 128 players. We sort of had to do all these things at the same time as building the maps, which in the end, I would say resulted in maps that weren't to the quality that we would like when we launched the game. And they had issues with traversal and cover, and we saw ambush kills and lots of issues like that because of it. Shashank, how would you describe the production of maps before launch?
I mean, pretty much like what you said. I would say even if you go further back, and we did this where in the, I think, past few months, we've been looking at older and older maps or other products where we had to look at BF3, BF4, BF1, BF5, and then 2042. And what we realized is we've been making levels larger and larger, historically. Mm-hmm. So if you look at BF5, the levels were much bigger than BF1 and BF4. And I think it peaked in 2042, where we're like, can we go in bigger? So let's make larger levels and let's put 128 players on that. And we tried that. Mm-hmm. And it was, I would say, all it's an argument for doing what we always do or try something new. Yep. And when you try something new and you take a risk, sometimes it pays off, sometimes it does not. And I would say in this time it did not. Yeah.
But I think it was probably also quite an exciting time because
Oh yeah, definitely.
Our levels were going to be bigger than we've ever done, so it's something completely new. So
it's a new challenge. Right? And I think that's what creators want. Yep. It'll be too easy to just do what we did because And at some point, I would say it's like music. If you look at musicians, you want the greatest hits, but at some point, you always have musicians who are like, I want to try I want a new sound and try something different. There's always a struggle between what people want and as a creative, what drives you as well.
Yeah, and we were obviously trying to explore, like, how could we achieve this, and how could we technically be able to build maps this big and still be able to do it in a reasonable amount of time. So, you know, we put, you know, an effort in procedural tools, and we put a lot of trust in that would help us to do it, be able to achieve it. And we also looked at, of course, like, you know, we would have to be, I mean, the feedback was that, okay, if we do this, then we need to have dense areas on the map. And then but I mean, between the dense areas, we need to have some more open areas. And, you know, we need to find ways so you can traverse between them and that will still work and it will be fun, you know, and yeah. But in the end, it wasn't a lot of fun. And we saw, of course, in the data and the feedback and all that, and that, you know.
Yeah, I mean, as an example, right, where everybody knows this, where the larger the space gets, the less dense it's going to be.
Yep.
So if you can compare a single player level to a multiplayer level or an open world. So say if you have a single player level, it's pretty much a corridor, right? And it's very prescribed. So you can have a lot of density in the asset count in there. As soon as you make an open world game, it has to be spread out because that's how it works. It's just tech. It's tech.
Yeah.
Where say you make a space and you have 100 things to put in it.
Yeah.
The smaller it is, the more densely packed it can be. The bigger it gets, the more spread out it gets. And that's what we had as well, where let's make a big level. You're going to play with this many assets. And like Kit mentioned, where at some point you have flags, and we want to put all the density in the flags, which means the space between the flags are a bit more sparse. And that is where the whole call-in vehicles came in.
Yeah.
Because we realized, okay, if you want to go from flag to flag, how do we solve this? And the solution was, we're going to call in vehicles. That's why now at any given point, you can just press B, get the drop-down menu, and then call in a vehicle. And we assumed players would actually get into it where, hey, I'm going to go from A to B. I'm just going to call in a LATV and then get from A to B. That's not how players actually worked. Players didn't do that. We can see from numbers, right, where people just run across open spaces.
What actually happens is players call in tanks on rooftops because that is fun.
But you know, but the feedback we also saw on the launch maps was, of course, that why don't you put cover everywhere? And you know, and what everyone might not think of is that you can't just put cover everywhere on the map because there are technical limitations to do that. You know, because then it affects performance and memory, budget, and all that. And also we had 2 different generations to think about. So we had Gen 4, Gen 5. So I mean that also plays into all of that. So
that was a lot of work. Having to build a game for 2 generations.
Because like the levels cannot be that large on like.
No, I think as a developer, it's everybody should go through it because it's a very how do I put it? Interesting experience. It is so much stress because on one hand you want to deliver the best quality level you can make because it's Gen 5 we have all these budget. And then but we also have to make it for Gen 4 and then you're like, how do I take this and make it work on a Gen 4 as well? And that is extremely challenging. Very few games do this.
And there are the things on the map that you need to have in both on both generations. Then of course you can put in another layer with some props and things to make it a little bit more prettier on Gen 5. But what actually makes it fun, all the cover and all that needs to be there on both anyway. So
just one little addition for folks. If you don't know, Gen 5 is PlayStation 5 and Series X. And Gen 4 is what we usually refer to. Xbox One, PlayStation 4, etc.
I mean, going back to cover, right? As a designer, it's not like we never come with a mindset of, if you don't put a cover over here, it's going to be funny. No, we want to add cover. So if you give us an option, we will add covers everywhere.
So let's talk a little bit about how our launch maps are compared to the maps we brought out in the seasons. For example, Exposure was, again, quite a large map. So let's go through the seasonal maps.
I mean, so production for that map started with the same direction and product goals as the initial launch map. So that's why it's really, really big because it had the same goals, so to say. then it was on a different timeline than a launch map. So even though it had the same goals to achieve, the end date from when production would finish was later to align more with season 1.
Yep.
But yeah, we obviously had the time to get a few of the learnings in there.
Yep.
It was quite far in the production when the game launched, so it was limited what things we could adjust. But how do you remember that, Shashank? What we could
yeah, that was it was an interesting time because it was a transition period where the level was under production and we were quite far ahead, but we could see the reaction from the players. So the question for us was now, okay, we had this level, it's pretty close to being done. How can we improve it based on player feedback? And that's when we are like, okay, let's take a step back. Where can we put more covers? Where can we make it smaller? So we did make it smaller. It was supposed to have more flags and it was a bit bigger, but we're like, let's shrink it. Let's scale it back as much as we could. Because the big thing with this level was the verticality. So for me as a designer, as long as we could maintain that concept of going from high to low, it would still work. And that's what we did. It is a bit shrunk, but we couldn't shrink it too much. What we could do is compromise a bit more on other things and get the numbers back into covers. That's what we did.
So ultimately, it did change quite a lot from its initial production version to...
Yeah, but we couldn't completely change it like how we had in the other maps.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it was... When it came out, it was our most well-received level so far, so that's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, I think the base concept was also really good. I remember some of the early play tests. I remember someone wrote in a comment, "This is a map truly worthy of being released on its own," because it was such a fun map from the beginning with just how the layout. I just had to say, it's an amazing map. I absolutely love it.
What's your favorite area on the map? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, it's we call it the Bond base.
Yeah, that's mine too.
yeah, it is. That's where all the cool
the one with the big
videos
balcony.
You know where to go if you want action.
It's two things. I like that one as a designer, but I like the server room just to farm XP. So
how many playtests we've had in the breakthrough last sector there?
Yeah. So I'm trying to get the T1 on Irish,
just to try to get it right.
And that's what I'm doing. Last sector, drop those anti-projectile thing and this,
APS,
and farm XP over there. But that's what it's meant to be. We knew it was going to be grindy.
Yeah. And XP server farm room.
But the Bond base with the dynamic of a lot of it's a central point of the map and the amount of infantry have there, and then also the air vehicles flying around. It's just such a fun dynamic point.
I think so.
That it's an experience you won't find anywhere else in any other map.
Nope.
It's
I think this is one of those levels where we stuck to our guns where verticality is difficult to make, because as an example, if you're in the valley, getting up is not that much fun. It's a bit tricky. Then we okay, let's make it a bit less vertical, but then no, let's keep it as a flavor where this map is different from everything else. Same thing with the server room. It is grindy, and we knew that going in, this is going to be challenging for attackers to get into in the last sector. We did add a third entrance point in a patch just to fix this. But it's still grindy, and I think it's okay to have something like that.
I think those close quarters combat areas where the gameplay gets very chaotic and fast-paced, it's cool. Yeah.
And the artist, I think the artist that worked on the ravine, they never want to do that again, I think.
Shout out.
It's a lot of work.
I can imagine.
But amazing work. But it took a lot of time.
Then let's what about our season 2 map, Stranded?
So much fun.
Which is much smaller, but was also very well received.
There we had a completely different approach and we set different goals for that, which also made then a map that played a bit different and it was different from the beginning. And we wanted to look into how small could we make a map that still fits the number of players and make it also very basic layout. And Shashank, what's your experience of that map?
It was interesting where the game is out and we hear all this feedback and okay, we need to take all those learning to the next level, right? So let's look at the smallest level we have, which is Kaleidoscope, and it was based around that size from Kaleidoscope. think about 1,000 by 500. That was the size we went with. And then the directive was, we want CQC. We liked what was our last sector in Ridge, and we were like, can we make that a focus point? That's why you have the ship, and you have flags inside it where you go in the ship, you know what you're going to get.
Yep.
It's going to be a grind fest, and that's what it is. If you stay outside, it's more open, it's more classic, do whatever you want, ride your vehicles and stuff like that. If you get inside, it's going to be CQC.
Yep.
So, I think it was...
Yeah, it was a really straightforward map.
It's a very straightforward map. You get it.
Clear goals, expectations. Yeah, so I think it was a really good map to work on because it turned out also, close to what we initially had set out as goals.
One thing which took convincing was not having vehicles for breakthrough. Because traditionally we always had vehicles in breakthrough. And the pod told us, it's not fun, let's not have vehicles in it. And we're like, let's not have vehicles in it. And I think it plays really good. There are players who might disagree saying we want vehicles, but it's one of those things where it makes sense.
For that map,
for that level, it makes sense.
Well.
Yeah. There are very few levels where we have said we won't have vehicles. This is one of them.
So and to maybe go into this a bit more, we can decide per map, per mode if we want vehicles in there or not. And this is also something that your team does.
Yeah.
The vehicle categories, which vehicles go where.
Yeah, so it's on level design to decide the categories of the vehicles, how many vehicles we have, where do they go, and stuff like that. Yeah.
And basically, you just wanted the XP farm room in the ship.
It's a tricky thing, right? Where if you put a vehicle, say in sector 1, which is outside, and then the next flags are inside the ship, then what happens? Then you're going to take the vehicle out, and for the last sector, turn it on again. At that point, we are like, what's the point? And it's a small enough map where you don't need to have a vehicle as a transport medium.
Yeah, and we also, it also resonated well with doing something different and new for, it added something to the product that we didn't have, which was, a more single player focused experience.
Infantry focused experience. Or,
What did I say?
Single player.
Single player. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah. As a designer, right, where how we approach this is as a bit of a behind the scenes is, for us, Conquest is where everything goes. We are okay with people having fun, spawning a tank on the rooftop and doing all these stuff. It's totally fun because that's where you get the battlefield moments.
Yep. Yeah.
Whereas for breakthrough, for us, is way more prescribed and way more, I wouldn't say scripted, but crafted is a better way.
It's a linear experience.
It's a linear experience where we want players to have a certain experience of you have to break into the base, move forward, grind a bit, and keep pushing ahead. It's not really about being silly at this point, because you want to have the feeling of all like warfare happening,
and that you're making progress as well.
Exactly,
or not if the enemy team is good.
That's one of the reasons why we don't have attack helicopters in breakthrough either.
Yep.
We can get into that, or
go for it.
So that was a big change we did. I don't remember which season. Was it season 1 or 2? We decided to redo.
I think it was 2, because we just added the new stealth helicopters in season 1.
Yes.
Which saw a lot of gameplay, and they were very strong. And I think then in season 2, based on player feedback as well, we made some changes there.
Because as an example, right? In Conquest, you have the players spread across different flags. And then if you have the choppers, you have the transport, damage is spread across different spaces. In Breakthrough, you usually have 2 flags or maybe in 1 flag. And then if you have a chopper, which can drop big bombs, it's very easy to get like multi-kills.
Yep.
Which I don't think is a fair experience where, as a defender, you're just trying to defend a space. A chopper comes in, drops a 50-kilo bomb, takes out half the team. Seems a bit unfair. That's why we went with the transport, because the levels are quite big.
Yep.
And it's a bit trickier for the attackers to actually get from the HQ to the first flag. That's why we have transport helicopters and not attack helicopters. And you can counter them with whatever you want to counter them. Okay, you can argue that the transport helicopters are quite powerful, and we have reduced the damage on those as well, just to fix the balance on that one. So
I want to talk about the container memes now.
Oh wow!
Like my only
What's the problem?
have you embraced the container meme as a team?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of a joke internally as well. So I think
I'm too old for memes, so
But I mean, it's definitely been a joke internally as well when we were working on the reworks, because we need to find cover that is not too expensive and
works. It works.
Yeah, it works. That's the thing. So I mean, it is sort of a joke.
I think
but it's also
every
important
game has
for the game.
their go-to, right? Back in the days, if you play Half-Life or something, you had the crates.
Yeah.
In Doom, you had the red barrels. So every game has their cliched like tropes.
Yeah.
I think for us, it is the container. And I'm okay with that. If anything, I'm okay because it's a really good prop for cover.
Yeah.
It gives you cover from the side, from the back. You can close the doors. You even have cover from the roof.
You don't have to sell containers to me, Shashank. Like, we got it.
Keep going. More arguments. More containers.
Which brings us to the season 3 map, which is literally close to home.
No, this is a map I really want to talk about. Well, obviously, I mean, amazing to be part of building the first map set in Sweden.
Yep.
That was a lot of fun, and beautiful nature and all that. But it was this map had an interesting production. It was a tough production also, because this was a map that started out different than it ended, and a map that was when we saw the launch maps and the problems we had it, and everyone had to we got together and really talked about the feedback and decided on goals. What do we want to do about this? We need to improve these things. Then this map was quite early in production. So it was still a map that we had time to go back and adjust what we wanted to do. But that also means that it puts a lot of stress on the team. There's a lot of throwaway work because of it. And we had to go back to the drawing board and change it, which was, it can be quite tough to do that. But it also, the thing is, when you do that, you also have ripple effects because then you change some things and then you discover that also had ripple effects on other things on the map that makes it more problematic for the artist, for example. So there are always things that will eat up a lot of time when you start changing it.
So the map itself changed a lot over this production cycle.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's for the better, and the map turned out fantastic in the end, but it's also thanks to our amazing level team that worked on the map, and unfortunately they were under a lot of stress and they had to put in a lot of energy and effort into making it as good as it did. But yeah, Shashank, what was your experience on working on this map?
I agree with it. It was a challenging experience on this one where it's always challenging to make a level based a bit in fiction. Like there's nothing like this massive cubes in open space anywhere. It's all made up. I would say it's a bit more simpler to take a space as an example. Like make a level on a dam. We know what a dam looks like. We know how a dam functions. Or make a level in a factory. We know how a factory works. We have a lot of references for that. Whereas if you say, let's make a level in Sweden and it's open green fields and you have these massive cubes where they're creating all these things, there is nothing to ground it. Like, how does this work? You have to it's all make-believe, and that takes a lot of work, especially for art, where they have to come up with all the themes. How do we ground it? How do we make it sense? Because with Battlefield, whatever we make needs to be believable. It should actually function in a way, right? So that is the challenging part. What we soon also realized was the concept for this level was exterior and interior, the juxtaposition of you can have the CQC inside and then you can have this open space outside. A bit similar to, I would say, Stranded, but in a bit different take. The interior was all right. the challenge was the exterior, because how do we provide cover purely with terrain? And that is where we had a lot of work to do, where nature looks a certain way, and that is something you're used to. And then when you try to change nature to provide cover, there can be a bit of dissonance where, oh, it looks a bit odd. So that's what the challenge is, where how do you make it gamey enough, but still look realistic, where this can actually happen in nature, right? Where we can go really gamey, but that's not the game we are.
Yeah.
It still needs to be based in reality to a certain sense. So I would say the team really did a good job where during playtest, to be honest, the constant feedback we were giving them was, we need more cover, we need more cover. And again, the challenge with that is, if you make covers too tall, then players can climb on top of it. And they can see they can look into every flag. Then you have 360-degree combat. So the covers can't be too tall, they can't be too short. That would be the perfect size where even if you get on top, it's risky, but if you stay behind it, it's safe enough. So it's not as easy as people think it is, but just
and because of the like the legacy of where we started the map and how we changed the direction and goals during the time, and then then when we got feedback, we constantly found ourselves in the position where we had to go back and adjust things. Then we got feedback, had to go back and adjust some more things. That is the ripple effect. I mean, like
you touch one thing. You touch everything.
And that why it becomes just, frustrating for the team in the end, because they constantly have to go back and adjust things.
Can you talk more about what the map looked like in the beginning versus how players have to see
I mean, it was
because
huge
it changed so much.
It was bigger. It had so right now it has
3 cubes
1, 2. Yes, it started with, it was cubes, exterior, cubes, exterior, cubes.
Way bigger.
Way bigger. And then at some point, we just realized this is not going to happen.
I think if you look at the map now, like south to the south of the map, it was supposed to be like double the size towards the south.
Okay.
That was like the first initial play test and just prototyping. So I mean, you figure out fairly quickly that wasn't going to fly.
Because what happened, this was being developed at the same time we were kind of finishing Stranded. There was an overlap, and then we were playing Stranded, and we were like, why is this level so big compared to Stranded? And we were like, oh, we should scale it down to bring it in line with what we're hearing from the players. And like you said, that is challenging, but it's not easy to just rip something off where, hey, we have 6 flags, we're going to remove 2 flags. There are always ripple effects, like you said.
And interesting also, man, everyone might not know this thing, is that a thing on this map that we said that we want to use nature and terrain as much as possible for cover, so that we can make a larger map than Stranded was, because we made a small map, now we make a little bit bigger next time, and then we make sure to use the terrain for that. But the nature in that area in reality is not as much doesn't have natural covers the same way. So we had to, as you said, it is believable the way it is now. But if you look at the nature in that area in reality, it's not as much cover, and
it's quite barren and
exactly. So we had to make some adjustments there to make that work and make it fun, as you say.
But I would say, like all said, the level has fun stuff, like all the destruction on the outside. That's really cool. The fan. And the sneaky path inside. I'm not sure how many players do it.
No.
But I love things like that, but you don't need to do it, but it's there. If you're a sneaky player, we give you options to have fun with that. So I think that is really, really nice.
Yeah. Something I also think is cool on this map is that I think we worked quite a bit on the breakthrough experience on this.
Yes.
Which is good, because
that took a lot of time.
That was a bit neglected on the launch maps initially. And for the season maps, the breakthrough the breakthrough experience has been more central and more key to us in the initial design of it. So
I mean, we can go back on that, where with the large level, the levels were more square. That's an easy way to explain something. Where the launch map for me was square levels, because we are going more towards the large open spaces. It's really good for conquest. Not really ideal for breakthrough, because then you end up with levels with experience which are, it's more like a croissant. So you start, as an example, like I worked on Wake Island for Battlefield 5, right? It's a croissant. It's a semicircle and you go across the whole level. And Breakthrough works on Wake Island because of the water, right? You don't cross the water, you stay on the land, and we can direct the player where they should go. If you had removed the water and you put a breakthrough, it feels arbitrary. Like on Hourglass, it's a very arbitrary combat area where you cannot go here because we told you cannot go there. It's nothing to do with the geometry or the way the level is built. So ideally for breakthrough, it should be a rectangular space where it's a clear left, right, and you progress across a space, which is what we could do with all the season maps, where Stranded, it goes left to right. Same thing with
Spearhead.
It goes left to right. So we had breakthrough in mind where, how do we make a really good breakthrough?
Is that something we just think about in general for each map? Like, okay, we designed this as more of a conquest map, or as a breakthrough map, or is it something you just have, breakthrough? No,
I would say
in the back of our
we
mind?
start with breakthrough because a breakthrough is a much more difficult mode to get right than conquest.
Okay.
Because conquest usually works.
Yeah.
It's just the back and forth.
Yeah, because as long as the flags are fun, you have enough cover, you have enough front lines, conquest works. Because it's more of a fun map, fun mode, right? Whereas with breakthrough, it's so concentrated, that the gameplay is so constant and specific between flags where you have to make sure the first flag is not too difficult. It should be easy enough where attackers can get into. The goal is every round should end on the last flag.
Yeah.
So if you have four sectors and if the game gets stuck on the first sector, we had done a bad job on our side.
That was important data for us to look at as well.
Yeah. Like the balance part of it.
Yeah, and for each sector, as you say, each sector should be fairly balanced. Yeah. But then you also want the match to, as often as possible, go to the last sector. That's the thing.
That's
we're looking
very
for.
tricky.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, actually, something I mentioned there. An important part of reworking our maps, once we're going to get into that, and to get to that, as you said, that is removing objectives on the rooftops.
Oh my god!
Okay, that's definitely going to be a nice discussion later. So I think this first section was just a general good review of our maps since launch, like how we changed their approach. Anything you want to add before we just talk about how we actually build our levels design?
No, I would say it was hard. Let's be honest, for at least for our team, because we make the levels.
Yep.
And that is where I would say everything happens. So it was...
That's deep, bro.
No, it's quite challenging, but the game comes out and people are like, the maps are like this, the maps are like that, not enough cover. And we're like, we know.
Yeah.
And to be just like completely truthful, we tried our best, given the limitations we had, right? It's not easy. And we take it to heart. And that's why when we could do the reworks, when we could, for the season map, make it smaller, we were so excited. Okay, we can do something with this now. We can fix it.
The reworks show that we haven't forgotten how to make really good Battlefield maps.
Yeah.
It's just that for the launch,
we tried something different.
We tried something new, and we had a slightly different focus than we've had before. Yeah. So
One thing I personally would like to touch upon, because from the community side, I see. Obviously, we write our update notes, and for every update we do, there's always a whole set of changes for a bunch of our maps. But like the nature of those changes are like, oh, we moved this. Sometimes it's not interesting enough to put in like the update notes, but we constantly keep changing our levels and improving them as well. And it's not something that maybe is clear to players, but
no, if there's something I want to mention on that, and when we dig into the reworks, is that we have never changed Battlefield maps in any game before.
Yeah.
This is completely new to us, and I think it's been such a success.
Oh, definitely.
I think so. Yeah. Okay, let's save it for the actual discussion because it's super interesting, and I would love to. I think let's dive into that more. But what I first want to talk about is just, before we move on, the design of our maps. Like, how do you go about building a level as a team? Where do you start? Like, which disciplines are involved?
I mean,
because we talked about like just how we feel about our maps, but like building a level is, as you already said, it's difficult. Like, how do you do it?
It's really, really
Yeah,
challenging.
this is what everyone wants to know.
So, if you go, I mean, this is one of those funny things where, as I said, I
You've
came
been doing this for a long time.
for a long time.
Shashank.
So I came from the modding background.
Yeah.
Where I would make mods for Quake and Unreal.
Yeah.
And it was just me. I was sitting in the editor, Radiant, back in the days. It was all BSPs. And just made a level by yourself. Its Software made really good tools. We just used what they gave us. And we know how a Quake map looks like. We know how Unreal map looks like. And we just made it. It was one person, me.
Me.
And it was easy because it's just you, right?
Yeah.
It's not the same anymore. Things have changed. Time has passed. To make these levels, it takes.
But you can still take assets that we have and do a block out, and
But that's it.
And that
But you can't shoot that.
Then you need everyone else to come in and make it look awesome.
Guys, I made a map, but can you make it nice now?
Yeah. No, because with player expectation, players expect a certain level of quality.
Yep.
And to hit that, it's no longer a one-person job. It takes a whole army to make it. So you have level design, level art, 3D art, VFX, audio, lighting, narrative. You have all the cosmetics. It's so much which goes into that, right? And it's
Tech art
as well.
Yeah, and we talked about this also before we kicked off here, that even though there are so many different crafts that goes into it now, and people that have different roles on creating the map, we often also hear the feedback, or you hear comments like, "Yeah, why don't you just add more people to it?" And the thing is, Shashank's laughing because it's just that that creates other problems, and people will step on each other's toes eventually.
It doesn't make the work go fast.
No, unfortunately, it doesn't.
Imagine, in a kitchen, you're making a steak. The steak won't happen faster just because you put more people on it.
Yeah.
It's really
You can't put. It's basically you can't have too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah.
If you go full technical, if you're building a space and you have one designer on it, maybe you can have two, because then you can split. I'm going to work on this flag, you can work on the other flag. The more people you put on it, the more you have version control issues. Different people work on the same things break down. There's a certain balance between how many people you can put on a space and still make it work technically before everything just breaks down. It's just too much.
So where do you start? What's the very first thing we do? Is it?
It starts with a high-level vision which comes from the creative director. This is what we want.
But it's basically the concept he has in his mind of I would like a map like this, but
it's the package.
Yeah, it also.
You can go into.
No, it also there's also the season theme, which also then can set the context for what's actually needed in a map. And then we work from there. We provide the map team with this information on the direction and the product goals, and then
which is Shashank.
Yeah. And then Shashank works with the team then to create a concept that fulfills that.
So what we get from the execs is, I call it the creative box, where here's the box based on the product goals, season goals, what we want from narrative, what we want from the long-term plan for the game. Within the box, you can be as creative as you want, as long as you stay in the box. You can touch the box, you can't leave the box. That's what the line is, right? And then the pod, which consists of all the craft, like I said, level art, level design, 3D, audio, VFX, narrative, lighting, tech. They all go away, come up with a pitch. Hey, what if we do this? Then we have a green light where we see, okay, go a bit left, seems that you're going a bit too right, this is where we want to go. And we keep refining it, and then we give a green light and we start production.
So is it those specific teams that all come up with their own pitch for this then map?
They all work together to come up with the pitch. Yeah.
So all the crafts are there. We have design, art, VFX, audio. Everyone needs to describe what they're going to do on the map. And then we just review that together with then creative directors and all the directors, really.
How does that feel? That's a whole bunch of creative people from different disciplines coming together.
That is the most positive and excited moment in
that's
the
easiest
entire
part.
map
That is the easiest part.
Because
a lot of
everyone's just like,
brainstorming,
oh man, I want to play this
ideas.
now.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, but that sounds really cool. But it's like, sometimes I walk through the office and I see a bunch of people in the meeting room with cool stuff on the screen. I'm like, damn, they must be having a really good time. Like,
That's the fun part, because here's the thing. That's the fun part because reality hasn't set in yet. Right? You have, because that's the reality, right? You have all these things. It's going to be this, it's going to be that. And then you start building it.
Yeah.
And then reality hits.
you see what you can actually do.
Yeah, and there's going to be compromises, and you need to do, rethink.
And that's when the
things.
stress starts.
Yeah. But what happens after, when everyone gives a thumbs up and the concept is greenlit, then you go in and then it's a level designer say, really have an important part to play there, because then you do blockouts and you want to get play testing as soon as possible going, so that you can get like the broad strokes on the map and decide on, this is fun, we think that this is going to work. And sometimes we have to go back a little bit to the drawing board.
Oh, definitely. I mean, ideally what we start with is, in the early phase, is make sure the navigation is really good. The distances between the flags are really good, because what we've done now is we have all this data as to what's a good distance between flags. So we have some numerics and numbers to go with where, okay, make sure flags not too far away, make sure there's enough navigation between the flags, make sure there's enough cover, make sure you don't see between flags. So that's the first pass we do. Like, okay, do we have all these fundamentals in? Then we go in, keep playing, implement conquest, implement breakthrough. Is it fun? Yes. Okay, we're happy with this. Make it look good now.
Yeah, and artists are setting up terrain materials and working on the biome and getting all of their things also prepared and set for the level during that time.
Yeah, and I guess it's probably also very cool to just see the level itself growing, because at first it will be empty.
Yes,
and then we keep adding things, and it really starts taking shape and progressing through our playtests. Yeah, it's cool to see. Obviously, as a player, you would only see the end result, but we see like from the ground up, like this level being built.
Yeah, we definitely do. And then we have milestone check-ins where we have defined like what do we what player experience do we need to evaluate at certain points in time, just to make sure that it progresses as it should, and we're doing the things that we should in the right order. And eventually it gets up to the point where it's done and we're just bug fixing left.
Do you think...
You make it sound really easy.
Kit is winging it at this point. Like, But do you think, because we've built quite a lot of maps now for 2042, do you feel like you found a sweet spot in like design, in terms of like once you have the concept to just start building the map? You already touched upon like, okay, flag distance, we know. Do you feel you're in the right spot?
Yeah, the thing is, like it's the concept is an easy one to do. We know how we want to make levels. The challenge is when you actually have to build these spaces. And then it's the collaboration where it needs to play really good, but it needs to look realistic as well. It should also be lit really well. It should sound amazing. That's where I wouldn't say challenge, but it is a challenge. But because everybody cares so much about their craft. It's how do we bring everything together in a cohesive package? Yeah.
Then
it all makes sense.
Yep.
The collaboration between the individuals becomes really important, and then we also have leads in each of the craft that help support as well, and give feedback and all that. But in the end, it's the map team and the collaboration between them.
Think of it like a jigsaw puzzle which has to come together, or like a really good dish when you go to a restaurant. Everything has to be perfect. If something is off, you can make a really good dish and not salt it properly. It's off. If you can make a really good dish and not plate it well, it's going to be off. Make a really good dish, pair it with a bad wine, it's going to be off.
I love your food analogies.
Like I was
today.
about to say, like, Shashank, do you do a lot of cooking in your free time?
One would say, but...
Okay, we do another podcast with Shashank Chef Show or whatever.
But I mean, what I'm getting to is, I keep saying this, level design is easy. It's not rocket science, right? Where we know what we want. We want to have X amount of flags. We want to have conquest, breakthrough, rush, TDM, free for all. Flags should be at certain distances. We want covers. Make sure you can't see from flag to flag. all these things are not complicated.
It's straightforward, and it's maybe not as as much innovation as you can see in a new feature, a new mode. We talked about this.
Yeah, making a mode is way more work. Making a new weapon is way
much
more
more
work.
exploration. So it's more straightforward for us, but it takes time, and you need to have. We are world-class people building a map, so I mean that's what it takes to make them play really well and look really, really good in the end. And
the framework is quite easy, but execution is
difficult.
Very difficult.
Finding eventually you'll just know if you found the right flow or not.
Yeah,
and it's also a feeling when you start playing.
I mean, remember, we're building worlds. You're literally building a world. It's not easy. I know.
Mind blown, man.
Yeah,
we're building worlds. Okay, but no, it's true. That's pretty cool. Which I think that's a good overview of like the design and how map comes together. I think the next topic of discussion should be the cookie of the week.
Oh, are we there?
Yeah,
yeah. I've been
Before
waiting
we
for
go
this.
into our map reworks.
What is this?
Cookie of the week.
Haven't you?
I don't know the name.
Listened to this in the other episodes?
I heard the first one with the pizza.
That's at the end.
Yeah,
Okay,
pizza
come
was
on,
the
man.
off topic.
Like as the chef in this group, you should
Okay,
know.
okay.
Like we save pizza for the end.
Okay. I see there are two things over here.
So grab a cookie.
I only had one. I have a sweet tooth, so I came in and
Yeah.
I had one immediately.
So I think we had the jackpot in this episode. So these were apparently homemade by
Mint.
someone that is working at the studio we're at,
Yes.
and it's praline, mint praline.
Mint praline.
Yeah, and then there's the Rocky Mountain. So not typically Swedish, I would say, but loved by everyone.
By many.
So I'll try the praline first.
The praline
Delicious.
was very, very nice and minty. Good texture. I'm having the Rocky Mountain now. Shashank is smiling.
Man,
He's approving.
I don't want to chew on on tape.
Well, it has
You should though. You should.
the typical Rocky Road
Yeah,
things in it.
I had it, so I can attest it is delicious.
And then it's I wonder if they call it Rocky Mountain because it has the Rocky Road ingredients, but it has this mountaintops. it's not flat on the top.
It has a
of
lot of verticality to the cookie.
yeah.
Oh my
Exactly.
God.
Shank,
Game.
which map does this cookie remind you of? Okay, this cookie is approved. It has my official stamp of approval. Are we ready for map reworks?
I think so.
I think so.
Yeah, this is a
After I,
topic I've been waiting for.
Are you done chewing?
if you give me 10 seconds, yes. I think the first rework we did was Kaleidoscope.
Yeah,
Yes.
it was. Yeah, I mean, maybe we can talk about like why that was the first one.
Yep.
Why Hourglass wasn't the first one.
Oh my God.
No, and also let me just start there. You know, the most important thing I think before we even started was to identify what are the KPIs or the data points, parameters that we want to look at,
Yep.
and to see like what are the things we want to improve. And as you said, that was distances between flags, traversal time in the data. We wanted to see that go down, and then we were also looking at the ambush kills data, which is like people get shot in the back. We wanted that number to be reduced. So there are a lot of very specific things that we looked at that we wanted to improve.
Yep.
So we identified those first, and once we had those, then we could look at like what do we need to do on the maps to make that happen. And then then it was basically the things more cover, making the distances shorter, and anything else there, Shashank, that you think of that we?
No, I mean that was it. I mean, if you go like further back, right? Like I said, the game came out, and all the LDs were like, "What's going on?" Like, it's not fun to hear what people are saying. And
Sorry,
then
what's an LD?
level designer.
Oh,
Right. So the whole team were like a bit down, and then we spent some time and like looking at through all the feedback, like Kit mentioned, and then we came under certain criteria where okay, if we could fix something, what would we fix? We would fix, okay, getting from flag to flag is not fun because there's not enough cover. Okay, why is there not enough cover? Because flags are too far away, and there's a long traversal time between the flags. So those two became the biggest issue, where not enough cover, flags are too far apart, levels are too big, and maybe there are too many players. And then you're getting killed from across the space. And then I believe what happened at the same time, a lot of people in the studio had the same thought. Should we make new levels? Or should we, for the first time in Battlefield history, fix something? I think Ammo was part of that discussion as well at some point.
Yeah, it was.
Right, I think Ammo was part of that discussion.
Yeah, because we had new maps that we had started, that we had greenlit and had in production, but we actually had to make a decision. Do we want to continue with them, or do we actually want to do this? Because, we would require everyone to help out with the reworks.
Yeah, we had 2 levels in production, to be completely transparent, and we had to pause them.
Yeah.
And I think that was the right call to make, a very difficult call, but the right call.
The seasonal maps.
Yeah. Because there's limit of resources, right? This is what I keep saying, where it's not like we have infinite pool where you can make new levels, and you can fix new levels, and you can update. It's the same people who make the new levels are going to rework the levels as well.
I think this is something we touched upon in the podcast, with the Q&A podcast with Nika and Ammo, that like we have to make decisions. Okay, we want to do these 3 things, but we can only do one of them now. Like, what do we do? So map reworks and making the improvements there.
And I think it is for our team on level design. We were very happy because we could actually improve things for the player. The worst thing that could happen is you ship something and then that's it. And then nobody is happy. Players are not happy because it's not fun to play. We are not happy because players are not happy.
Yeah.
And they don't like what we have done for them. So it was a bit of what do you call it? Let's do something for the players.
Yeah, and then we had to start the discussion on, which order do we do the
Kaleidoscope, yes.
Yeah.
So here we are. We want to fix things. Okay, pause new levels.
Do you remember why we picked that as the first level?
Yes, because we Hourglass and
because I remember we saw it as the first one would be a learning as well,
a learning
and
experience.
a test for the other ones.
Yes, and let's not go with the biggest ones.
Because we knew the Hourglass
was so much work.
The most problematic. Technically, also it's going to be the hardest.
Yes.
So we didn't want to. It was the one that
it would take so much time.
Yeah. It would do that as well, so it would take time before it came out. So even though it was one of the maps with the most problems, it would also, we wanted to have more learnings before we tackle it, and it would also not be, we wanted to get more reworks out faster.
Yeah,
and
that's why we picked the smallest level.
Yeah.
In case people are like, why are they fixing Kaleidoscope? Because it was a smaller level and we could ship it fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we wanted, because then we would do it, and we would also learn from that and see how we approach the rework and how it actually changed things when it went live, and that would then help us also with the continuous.
Yeah, because we also trying one of the feedbacks we got, especially for Kaleidoscope, was it felt too pristine.
Yes,
it didn't feel like, okay, it's Battlefield, there's a war going on.
Oh yeah,
and you jump into this level. It's clean, like somebody has just vacuumed the whole space
and
out.
That is the other part of doing this as well, because rework, it started out as a design improvement, like, because it needs to be these data points need to look better, it needs to be more fun, but then it was also, we saw feedback on the artistic side as well,
the narrative and the fiction,
and we wanted to have more atmosphere in the maps, and so we wanted to
get the war-ready theme going on. So that's what the whole war, it looks a bit more war-tone. We have more military presence in there. And we did that first time in Kaleidoscope, and then we took, okay, this works. Can we propagate this to other reworks? And that's what happened.
That's what we've done for all of them so far, right?
Yeah, and we haven't changed our goals, or, I mean, we basically, we have stuck with what the things we wanted to improve, because we saw that it worked, and we saw that it improved, and then for each map we've done, it feels like we learn more and more and more how to do that, and our approach and our way of doing this has only been of course it's been improved during the time we've done it, so it's been a really valuable experience for us, and it's made the game so much better.
And there are some, like, player experience for me trumps everything. You could have made the best thing, but if it's not good for the player experience, I don't think it should be there. And
that's gameplay first.
I wouldn't say gameplay first. I would say I prefer player experience first, because player experience it entails everything. It entails design, art, narrative, lighting. Because it's, as an example, right? If you want to have, I want this to be very moody, of course you're going to make it a bit dark. You're going to have different audio. You want this experience of being in a particular space. That's why I always, it can be, you can say gameplay first because it has a lot of connotations with that. So I stay away from that as a terminology. That's why I think player experience is more inclusive.
Okay, no, that's a good explanation to give as well. Yeah,
it's like also been really fun to see how the pods have become really excited about this, because we have a few different approaches on the different reworks. I remember, for example, Kalle working on Orbital, adding the new capture point, which no one had thought about. We were just, we wanted to improve the same things on the other map, but he was like, I have an idea for a new capture point. I think it could be like this, and it was amazing.
It was great because the whole issue with that one was this is the fun part where you can be a bit more creative, right? Where getting from the cryo facility to the flags on the runway, you have to go either to a tunnel, which is instant death because somebody's waiting with a tank inside, or you have to go on top of the hill, which is not that fun.
No.
And we are like, okay, what if we could put a flag? Or it was Kalle's idea, not my idea. Great designer. Like, what if you have a flag in between as a stopping point where you go into the tunnel, you see a tank, and you can exit the tunnel somehow? Or what if you're on the top of the hills and connect them? It worked brilliantly.
Yeah. Yep. So there you had an example then on how we sort of evolved our reworks during time, where people working on them became passionate, excited, and really cool ideas. Yeah. And then you saw even taking even another step further when we saw the pitch for Breakaway. Yeah, whoa. When we want to move the oil rig. And
so it goes further than just changing the flow and traversal. It's just like, okay, how can we? We're basically changing.
I just love to see that the pods became excited and have really amazing ideas on how to improve the levels, which at first might have seemed like, oh wow, how isn't this going to be a lot of work?
But, that was my reaction when I saw the Breakaway pitch. I'm like, are you sure you want to do this? And they're like, yeah, we can do this. I'm like, if you believe in it, and if it makes,
and that's the thing, when you do believe in it, and that's when you become high performing, and you can do this with
No. And I think, Breakaway is the last map that came out as a rework. It was very well received.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very.
The feedback was really good on it.
It is one of my favorite maps currently, definitely.
Yeah, I think it's really good. We have simplified a lot of things, like the oil rig has been simplified. We have new paths going in the glacier. We had to remove the hilltop flag, but that's for the better. The downtown is a bit more simpler, understandable, readable. It's really good.
I think it's a good example of how reworks can really just, change the map. Because before, I think it was was it our second largest map? Or the
Breakaway?
largest even? Yeah.
Breakaway was larger, I think, than
Hourglass?
Than Hourglass, yeah.
I think it's actually...
It's the biggest.
It's the largest ever.
Okay, so it was our biggest
map. That was the goal. The goal for Breakaway was... it was the largest map.
It achieved that.
It achieved that.
So it was certainly big, but I think it was one of the least well-received maps because it was so big, it also highlighted the problems the most that we needed to resolve, and now we have reworked it, and the flow is just so much better. And I personally really just, I don't know, sometimes I want to go into the crushed Condor area and just chill with the helicopter. It gives this comfortable feeling.
And we shouldn't forget that this has also been an opportunity for audio, for example, then, because they have improved the audio on every reworked map as well. That might not be as, apparent to everyone, but the audio is better on all the reworks than it was before. They've done an additional pass on all of them. And then also...
Same with lighting.
Huh?
Lighting as well.
And on Breakaway, we didn't ask for a rework of the ice shader, but, that... Eric did that because he wanted to do that and he was passionate about it.
So the glacier looks better now.
So it looks a lot better than it did before.
Yeah.
So, it's an opportunity for all these things to happen at the same time as we improved the game.
So I think that's why I'm like, okay, the fact that we actually rework levels for me it shows that we're committed to improving the product.
Yep.
Right?
And I think there's only 2 left.
Yes.
Yes.
Discarded and Hourglass. So
We kept the best for last.
do you maybe want to share a little bit about what players can expect? for
Yeah, I
Discarded?
mean, I can start with Discarded, which is funny thing also with I compared to Hourglass, or not, I compared to Orbital in the way that it wasn't the most problematic map,
Yep.
but we have added a new capture point to it. So it's similar in that way.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I agree with Kit. Not the most problematic map, could be improved. And the pod was like, we want to do all these things. And I'm like, sure? Yes. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's better than it was before.
Yeah, the issue with, I would say, Discarded was the breakthrough was a bit snaky. The way it was.
On the previous one?
On the large option.
Yeah.
So now it's a bit more nicer, it's a bit more simpler. I mean, I love the map. The ship is there, has interiors, has exteriors.
Yep.
You have choppers, you have tanks.
I think the getting to the ship part was sometimes a bit
Challenging, yeah.
challenging.
And that's what we improved, yeah.
But I think it looks really good now.
Okay. What about Hourglass?
Yeah, Hourglass is, as I mentioned, it's
always
one
been
of the
challenging.
hardest one. Yeah,
I would say Hourglass has been the most challenging level we built.
yeah,
Just from the start.
from
you
the
mean?
start,
the
yeah,
start.
and
From the
also
start.
reworking it.
Also
So
reworking
both-
it, yeah.
Okay, I would love to hear why was it the most challenging, but also like how does it then play into the rework itself?
I would
Because
say
that's
it's
the last
challenging
one.
because of the dunes and the desert. It's a tech thing. The way dunes work, moving it is not easy. The shaders are complicated. It's just the way it's to build a level like that. It's not easy. That's basically, and then
providing cover in the
dune.
dunes that also makes sense.
since yes,
all those snipers on the
I
dune
mean,
lines. Oof.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, irreversible.
you can't
or-
just put
Container.
the containers, out in the middle of a sand dune. Why is it
the
there?
wide container? Yeah, okay, that doesn't.
We
make
need
sense.
But that's
be
what I
able
meant.
to
Where it would be easy to just drop a container and call it a day.
Yeah.
But you can't, because if you think logically, the container would have been on the street or wherever the base terrain is, and then it would be covered with sand dunes. Now that if it's on top of a sand dune, the question is, who dropped it? Why is it there?
Can we have one container on Hourglass just somewhere in the middle of the sand? So everyone's like, why is this here? Like, how does it even end up here?
I'm not sure the artist would be happy with that.
If you can convince them, sure, Tom, you can come over to our area and talk to them.
Okay, sounds like
But I've seen what the pod has done,
I'll be
and
impressed if you succeed.
there are some good stuff happening in there.
Yeah, I mean, we have a plan
can't
now.
say much, but yeah.
And we have been playtesting, prototyping.
Yep.
But it's been hard to get over the technical hurdles of moving things on that map.
Yeah,
So-
we didn't make things easy for ourselves. Let's put it that way.
we gotta keep it interesting.
Yes.
But that is as much as I'm gonna share on Hourglass now, I think.
No, that's fine. I guess it's just to confirm that Discarded and Hourglass, we're still working on those. Those are
definitely.
the last 2 reworks that we will do as a team, because then we've reworked all of our maps.
Yes.
And we started in season 1. So it's just been cool to see that work progress and see the new reworks come out, see the reception from players about the improved versions as they played.
It's been so rewarding.
Yeah.
To see how it's been received by players. So yeah, thank you everyone for all the YouTube content you've done on the rework maps. I've enjoyed watching all of it.
Awesome. So I think that was a pretty good overview of how we've done our map reworks. But obviously we've had like individual learnings as well. So could you both speak more about some other specific problem areas we face, like rooftops?
Yeah, I mean, rooftops is it's a fun one, because we obviously we had objectives on rooftops when the game launched, and but
Should have worked on paper. On paper, it made sense.
Yeah.
Right? So here is the...
It was one of the first things that we reworked on the maps and changed the maps.
removed it immediately.
Yeah.
So here is what happened. I believe this was... I won't take names. There was a map. There was a rooftop flag. The conversation went like this. Should we have rooftop flags? it should make sense because you can take a chopper and then land and then capture it. Like I said, on paper, makes complete sense.
Yes.
Nobody does it. And it's super hard to do it because you bring a chopper there, and when the game came out, and before the class update, everybody had access to a rocket launcher. So you bring a chopper, even for like 5 seconds, it's going to go down. So it was impossible to capture it. So this is one of those things where something on paper doesn't translate to live environment unless you actually test it with live players, because live players can be very creative in ways.
They will find the thing.
And it didn't. It didn't matter how many paths we added to get up to the rooftops. It didn't work, and it was too easy to defend.
The thing is, it was a good idea. Let's be honest, right? Where we have verticality in the game, and we built all these rooftops,
and they're awesome.
It'd be cool to have flags on, like I said, on paper, but it didn't work. Especially for Breakthrough. Conquest, I think it's still fine because, like I said, in Conquest, everything goes. We still have rooftop flags on Conquest in Kaleidoscope. On Breakthrough, because it's so prescribed, and suddenly you have all these players defending a rooftop flag, it's so difficult to take it.
And it's not just also a subjective thing, because, looking at the data, it was so clear when we looked at, as we said, we want the Breakthrough to end in the last sector as often possible. And we want the other sectors to be as even as possible. But, the rooftop flags were just like, they were the problem childs. If you looked at the data, it was heavily skewed towards the defenders. That the end, the game ended there.
Which reminds me of at launch on Orbital, where a bunch of people would go with their hovercrafts up on.
I don't know why we should have left it. That's my opinion. It's a feature, not a bug.
That was crazy.
Wow.
Like you was just walking down and you saw a bunch of hovercrafts crawling up the wall. Like, what is going on here?
And then we have the next learning then, which is grappling guns.
Yes.
And designing levels for grappling guns, which has also been a new experience.
It's one of those things where traditionally, like, Battlefield games have been like foot on ground, right? Where players are always on the ground, you have parachutes, and that's about it. Grappling gun just made everything so much more complicated because suddenly you have to think about where can you grapple to.
Yeah.
So that's one of those learnings where, not my favorite gadget because it makes
it was difficult to
our
balance.
lives difficult.
And also, and you coming with a level design perspective, and then I know from the artist's perspectives, they had to care about areas they have not been had to taken care of before. We would have, because previously you could, you can take some shortcuts here and there when you polish up the map, but all of a sudden people could just get up to these strange little corners everywhere, and they had to make sure that they block them off, or make sure that you don't get stuck in places where you would never get stuck before. So it just added a whole nother level of complexity and more.
As an example, if you look at Manifest, that is a feedback we keep getting, where Manifest, because it has all these containers,
that is probably the one map
you can go wherever you want. And that is kind of the theme of the map, where we give verticality, but the only way to fix the level, to be honest, is to not have containers, right? Or maybe that high, but then it's not a port anymore. So it's this, it's not easy.
Yeah. Well, something we have to live in this game.
Okay. So season 4 is on the horizon. We'll be dropping info on that very soon. But something players may have missed is in December we gave our first glimpse about what's next, and it included a very short teaser about the season 5 map that is already in production as well. Kit, can you maybe give a refresher on what we've said so far?
Yeah, absolutely. So that is very much in production at the moment, and it's a map that takes inspiration from setting or a theme from a Battlefield 4 map. So it's not it's not reworking a map, or but it's taking inspiration from a theme from that game, and it's also a map that the area in the map, it used to be an area where there's been combat previously. But that was 20 years ago in the setting on the map. So you can see that people and nature started to reclaim this area a little bit.
Yep.
And now, then the war comes back again to this area in this game. So yeah, that is as much as I'm gonna share on the Season 5 theme of the map.
Okay. Thank you. And that's all we had for today. Thank you so much, folks, for tuning in. And Kit and Shashank, thank you so much for being here with me.
Yeah, thanks for having us. I really enjoyed that. And now I'm looking forward to going pizza without pineapple lunch.
Yes, pizza without pineapple, people. Just confirming.
No, thanks. This was fun. I'm okay with pizza. I'm okay with kebabs. I'm not okay with bananas on pizza. That's not okay.
There's a lot of discussions to still be had for us. So, folks, if we have feedback, reach out to us at #InsideBattlefield on our social channels or podcast@battlefield.com. Next week, we're back to talk Season 4. It's going to be very exciting. We'd love to have you tune in. So thank you, and bye-bye.
See ya. Bye.
Bye-bye.